Imagine being sent away as a child to live in the court of the most powerful empire in the region, not as a guest, but as a hostage. That was the beginning of the story of Vlad the Impaler, the ruler whose name inspired the legend of Dracula. And trust me, his real story is wild enough without any vampires. In 1431, in the town of Sighișoara, in present-day Romania, a boy was born. His name was Vlad. He belonged to the house of Dracula, a branch of the ruling family of Wallachia. His father, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order created to defend Christianity. The word Dracul referred to the dragon, so Vlad became known as Dracula, which essentially meant son of Dracul. Not exactly the kind of nickname that helps you blend in at school. Wallachia, located between powerful neighbors, was constantly under pressure. To the south stood the expanding Ottoman Empire. To the north, the Kingdom of Hungary. Wallachia was caught in the middle, and in this part of the world, being in the middle usually meant trouble. To secure his political position, Vlad's father sent young Vlad and his brother Radu to the Ottoman court. They were hostages, treated with a degree of respect, but always under watch. Vlad learned military tactics, languages, and the realities of power. He also learned a lesson that would shape his life. If you looked weak, someone would take everything from you. Meanwhile, back home, politics turned deadly. His father was overthrown and killed. His older brother Mircea was also killed during the struggle for power. When Vlad learned what had happened to his family, any remaining innocence was gone. The boy who had entered the Ottoman court returned with a very different outlook, and he wanted one thing: the throne of Wallachia. He had lost his family. He had lived as a hostage. Now he was coming home, and he had no intention of being ignored. In 1448, Vlad made his first attempt to seize the throne of Wallachia. It was brief. He ruled for only a short time before being forced out. But he had learned something important. Winning the throne was one challenge. Keeping it was another. For years, Vlad moved between courts and allies, watching, waiting, building support. Then, in 1456, he returned. This time, he succeeded. Vlad became ruler of Wallachia, and he was determined to strengthen the state. Corruption was a serious problem. Powerful nobles often put their own interests ahead of the country. Vlad acted decisively to reassert royal authority. His methods earned him a fearsome reputation. Stories spread quickly. One famous tale claimed he invited dishonest officials to a grand feast. Let's just say it was not the kind of dinner where people asked for dessert. Whether every detail is accurate or not, the message was clear. Under Vlad, disloyalty had consequences. He also focused on security. According to popular stories, travelers could leave valuable items in public without fear of theft. Whether legend or fact, these stories reflected how strongly people associated Vlad with strict order. To some, he was a cruel ruler. To others, he was exactly the kind of leader Wallachia needed. And his greatest challenge was still ahead. Because soon, he would confront one of the most powerful empires in the world, the Ottomans. And that conflict would turn Vlad into a legend. Most rulers tried to avoid war with the Ottomans. Vlad did the opposite. He picked a fight with one of the strongest empires on earth. That's either extraordinary courage or the medieval version of saying, "I've got this." By the early 1460s, tensions between Wallachia and the Ottoman Empire had reached a breaking point. The Ottomans expected tribute. Vlad wanted independence. That was not a small disagreement. It was a direct challenge to the authority of Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople. Vlad refused to submit. Instead, he launched raids south of the Danube. Fortresses were attacked, supply lines were disrupted. The message was unmistakable. Wallachia would not surrender quietly. Vlad understood he could not defeat the Ottomans in a conventional war, so he relied on speed, surprise, and psychological warfare. Hit quickly, disappear, keep the enemy uncertain. In modern terms, He turned the battlefield into a constant headache, the kind that no amount of medieval herbal tea could fix. As his campaign intensified, stories about his harsh methods spread across Europe. Some accounts were likely exaggerated. Others reflected the brutal realities of 15th century warfare. Either way, Vlad's reputation grew, and soon, Sultan Mehmed II decided to respond personally. A massive Ottoman army advanced toward Wallachia. Vlad now faced the greatest test of his life, outnumbered and under pressure. Vlad chose one of the boldest strategies in medieval history. He attacked at night. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II led a major campaign into Wallachia. Vlad knew he could not win by meeting this army in an open field, so he turned to surprise. On the night of June 16th to 17th, 1462, Vlad launched a daring assault on the Ottoman camp. The goal was simple: reach the Sultan and end the invasion in a single strike. Under cover of darkness, Wallachian forces charged into the camp. Confusion spread. Torches flickered, soldiers scrambled. In the chaos, Vlad came close to achieving his objective, but Mehmed survived. Even so, the attack had a major psychological impact. It showed that Vlad was willing to take extraordinary risks, and that nowhere felt entirely safe. Imagine trying to sleep after that. 1 minute, you're in the world's largest army. The next minute, your enemy is in your camp. After the attack, the Ottomans continued their advance, but the campaign had become far more difficult than expected. Vlad had turned fear into a weapon, and his name was now known far beyond Wallachia. By now, Vlad's name was spreading across Europe, and the stories about him became more dramatic with every retelling. After the war with the Ottoman Empire, Vlad's reputation exploded. Merchants, diplomats, and chroniclers carried stories of his rule across Europe. Many accounts focused on his use of impalement, a punishment so shocking that it defined how later generations remembered him. In an age before social media, this was the medieval equivalent of going viral. And unlike modern viral content, no one wanted to click "see more." Some stories portrayed Vlad as exceptionally cruel. Others praised him as a ruler who imposed order and defended his country. The truth is that historical sources reflect very different perspectives. German pamphlets often emphasized horror. Other traditions presented him as a stern but effective leader. One famous legend claimed he placed a golden cup by a public fountain, and no one dared steal it, whether fully accurate or not. The story captured his reputation perfectly. Under Vlad, crime was associated with severe consequences. Fear became part of his political image, and that image would outlive him by centuries. Just when Vlad seemed unstoppable, he lost everything. Despite his bold resistance, Vlad's position weakened. His brother Raducel Frumos had support from the Ottomans. Political alliances shifted, and Vlad was eventually detained by Matthias Corvinus. Accounts differ on the exact circumstances, but Vlad spent many years away from the throne. For a ruler known for action, imprisonment was a dramatic reversal. Imagine going from commanding armies to having a lot of time to think, and probably no one bringing your preferred dinner. Yet Vlad was not forgotten. His reputation endured, and over time, political circumstances changed. He rebuilt alliances, waited patiently, and prepared for one final return. Because some figures disappear into history, Vlad was not one of them. After years in captivity, most rulers would have faded into history. Vlad came back for one last attempt, because apparently retirement was not his style. By 1476, the political situation in Eastern Europe had shifted once again. The Ottoman threat remained, and regional powers still needed experienced leaders. Vlad regained support from important allies. Among them was Stephen III of Moldavia, also known as Stephen the Great. With military backing, Vlad launched another campaign, and for the third time, he became ruler of Wallachia. It was a remarkable comeback. A former hostage, a feared warrior, a prisoner, and now, once again, prince. But his final reign was brief. Only weeks after returning to power, Vlad was killed in battle or during a military engagement. The exact details remain uncertain. Some accounts say he died fighting Ottoman forces. Others suggest he may have been mistaken for an enemy in the chaos. Either way, his last chapter ended the same way he had lived, in conflict, sword in hand, and refusing to step aside. Centuries later, a novelist transformed Vlad's name into one of the most famous legends in the world. But the real story was already unforgettable. In 1897, author Bram Stoker published the novel Dracula. Stoker borrowed the name Dracula, and with it, a powerful historical association. But Vlad the Impaler was not a vampire. He was a real 15th century ruler in a brutal era. To some, he was a cruel prince. To others, a defender of Wallachia, who resisted the Ottomans. Both images have shaped his legacy, and that is what makes him so fascinating. History remembers him as a man of extremes, feared, admired, debated, long before fiction gave him fangs. His reputation had already become legendary. He inspired Dracula, but the real Vlad the Impaler was more extraordinary than myth.